Rob, you have it running? Okay, cool.
Now we know what you're really doing over there in the corner so quietly.
Okay. All right, 20 minutes, guys. You're adding delete buttons next to each frog document. Delete buttons next to each frog. And then when you click on them, it makes a request and deletes that frog. You might want to also refresh the div also. And then scraping, and then we'll start working on your homework for MongoDB.
keep talking, you need to unmute. Pavan.
Pavan, you got it on mute.
Hey, Pavan.
So I open up the index.html file, and I'm going to go ahead and make a button.
Did you put it in?
And if I want to put this button inside the paragraph tag, how am I going to do that? Quasra. Excellent. All right, so now let's see if this worked. Okay, cool. We have delete buttons now. And now we have to add in some code. So when I click on the delete button, it deletes that frog. So document.onClick. Document because why? Judith Kizra. Excellent, right? We're adding these buttons in after the page loaded, right? After this JavaScript has happened. So we have to attach the click event to the document. So over here, I'll put in button. We could have added in an ID into it. So if we wanted to do that, could have added a class or something of delete frog. So I could do dot delete frog instead. And now what I'll do inside this delete button is we're going to make an AJAX call. And you could also attach you could also put a click event on this button right here also. But I find it better to kind of isolate all the click events. All right, so it's going to be what kind of call? Delete. And then, oh, what'd you say? It's going to be a delete call. We'll see if it works or not. We might have to use method override. Delete / frogs / the ID, right? It's going to be the ID of whatever frog. So we need to get that ID first. So the ID is over here. So we're going to add a data attribute to our class. .attr data-id. So I'm just adding a data attribute to the delete button. So if I want the ID, what would I write over here? What would I put right here? Let's go to Radra. It'll be $ something. Perfect, right? So it'll be this. The button that we just clicked on. And we have ID right here. So I'll use ES6 syntax. Right there, because that's the route that we're trying to hit.
Could you do a usage / d?
You can, well, yeah, you have to do frog / the ID, only because the route is, what is it? See, /frog / whatever the ID is going to be. Yeah, so this is the route, so that's why we have to do it that way. And it's delete right here, so that's why we have to do delete call. I'm not sure off the top of my head if this will work. Right? Maybe I need to use method override. We'll find out. And when I'm done, what will it return me? It should return me the ID. So let me see if it actually works or not. All right, so we'll delete this one. It deleted Frank. If I refresh the page, now Frank's gone. But I don't want to have to refresh the page, right? So what I'm going to do over here is put this into a function, get frogs. And then cut this and put this over here. Call this get frogs function when the page loads. And also call it right here. So I'm going to go back over here, delete Kermit. What the hell? Did not work. Why did that not work? Unless it, why would that not work? Okay, interesting. Let's do some curl calls and insert the all right, so we have, we'll delete this one. Somehow I managed to do this. So I'll delete this. Huh. A console logged it. Oh, you know what? You know what's happening? Inside this function, we're not clearing the div. There we go. Now it should work.
What does that mean? Clearing the div.
Okay. Right. So it was ending, but it wasn't like deleting. It wasn't emptying the div.
Pavon, can you hear me?
So what I was doing was I was deleting the frog, and then I was calling get frogs, which gets all the frogs and then it appends all of them on the page. So we had all the previous ones, and it appended all the ones that we still had in our database. Good. Wow.
Yeah, I think his
Yeah, you can do that
off,
too.
man.
I guess to avoid the whole reason you use Ajax instead of EJS is to kind of like have this experience where the page doesn't reload. So, yeah. But location.reload works fine.
Stop it.
Questions on what I just did here.
Gosh.
The big stuff was over
Good
here,
job.
right? We needed to make a button. This button right here was the key. This code right here was the key. This was the key right here. If you didn't do this, then I mean, it's very difficult because the button needs to have the data attribute inside. If you don't have the data attribute of the ID that you want to delete, then you can't delete it. And then over here, you need to attach the click event to the document. Unless you put the click event inside right here.
Josh, you can't hear
You
him?
put it right here, you could do $button dot on click, and then it would work over here. Questions on this?
I mean, I can hear him. He just can't hear us.
Fernando, was that you?
No, it wasn't me.
All right, so let me send this over to you guys.
Yeah, he can't hear us. You can hear me though, right?
Yeah, I hear you right.
All right.
Oh, sorry, Josh.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Sorry, can you just explain the div empty part?
Yeah, sure, totally. So the div empty part, if I don't include this here, it's gonna get all the frogs and then re-add them to the div. So whatever we see on the page, plus whatever is in the database again. And the issue on the first time we call this, we don't need div.empty. But the second time we call this is after we delete a frog. So if we're deleting a frog, we already see all the frogs from the database, all of them. We delete a frog, not only does that frog not disappear now, right? But all the frogs in the database get re-added into that div. So by adding div.empty, we erase all the frogs. And because the frog is deleted, we're just getting all the frogs from the database. That frog won't be there because that frog got deleted.
So essentially, you're clearing the list and then repopulating it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Clearing the list, repopulating it.
You completely empty the div and then repend that div, and that's just what you're doing when you get frogs.
Yeah. So completely empty the div and then reload it with all the frogs.
Okay.
And then right before that, I am deleting the frog. Good. Other questions on this? All right. Let me send. Did I send it? Okay, cool. Let's do 15.
Hey,
Go over each other. Yeah, what's up?
hey, quick question. Whenever we make the JS file for the Mongo, does that automatically sync up to create a database?
Yeah, so we don't need to create the database. As soon as this runs and some data gets inserted into the frogs DB gets made, the frogs collection gets made, everything gets made. So we don't have to do any setup.
And then my next question is when we have the workbench for Mongo,
Mm-hmm.
and we go in the Mongo terminal and we type in show all databases, that's only going to show databases we created through Mongo, right? It's not going to show the SQL databases.
Yeah, it's only going to show Mongo databases, and it's only going to show Mongo databases that have data in them. If you don't have data inside of a Mongo database, it won't actually show the Mongo database name.
All right, and then my last question is, anytime we do the databases, we have to actually do it through the Mongo workbench, correct?
Yeah. Generally, you have to do it through the Mongo GUI tool. I don't have it, which is interesting. It's called Compass. Okay, Compass.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I was just under the impression that whenever we made a JS file, it automatically created the database.
Yeah. It'll automatically create the database as soon as you insert data into it. It won't make it until you insert data into it. Right? So until this route gets hit, the database you won't see it.
Okay. Thank you.
Great questions. All right, go over this with your partners, 15 minutes. Then we're gonna go over scraping. Let's get a few examples. That's amazing.
On.
Yeah. Mhm.
Quick question for you. Why doesn't Mongo have any sort of sign-in credentials like MySQL did? I noticed we don't have to like put in a password or anything to like get into the database.
Yeah. It's we set it up using no password or username for a local environment. So there is no username and password.
That means any app that we build where we say, use or create this database URL and then create a database, it's just going to do that?
Yeah, it will do that. So you might, for other ones, you might need like username : Josh, I don't know, password equals : something, right? It might be something like that.
Okay.
Like if it was a live server, it would be something like that. And then maybe like the first part would be the IP address.
Gotcha. Okay. So there is a way to do it. My only question is, I'm curious if I had Mongo on a server, I'm curious, how I would go about setting that up, and then what maybe these files would look like differently to make sure I'm establishing that connection beforehand before we write all this code.
Oh yeah, so we have some files to go over that process.
Oh, we will.
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Wonderful. Oh my God. On my to-do, still on my to-do list to go there. All right, guys, go ahead, download this zip folder, unzip it, go into the first 06 folder, npm install, start it up. Nick, let me know when you're done. Got it? All right, guys. So in this file, they're using axios instead of request. In a later example, I use request. Axios is just another package like request. It makes an AJAX call for Node. When I say they, I mean the curriculum team for this. So this is going to this page right here. If we go to this, if we make a get call to this page, go to this page in the browser, we see all of this HTML right here. And if we go back to the code, what we're doing is we're getting that response, which is HTML. We're going to load it into a package called Cheerio, right? We're using two packages here. We're using Axios to make the AJAX calls and Cheerio to be able to parse the HTML that we get back, right? And so going over here, we're loading the HTML into Cheerio. Why is it like this? Well, if you go to the Cheerio documentation, it tells you to do that. It tells you to do those lines right here. So now we're making an array, and we're looping over all the title tags using jQuery-like syntax, which is crazy because we're on the back end. So how do you know to do this? Well, when you're on this page, you can go into the console, and there you go. You can see all the title tags right there. So let's say you can take a look at the 8 elements. You could highlight what you want to get right here, right? And let's say I want to get this code right here, right? This text right here. You could, I think, right-click on this. Right-click, copy JS path. Let's see. Yeah, and that'll get you the exact thing to write to get to this point right here. The thing is, like, it's too exact, right? It's going to get you right to that point, right? If I want every paragraph tag and title, it's going to be a lot simpler. It's going to be p.title, right? That's going to get me every single paragraph tag with a class of title in it. How do I know to do class of title? Well, I want to get the text right here. I want all the text in the headlines. So I see that every single one has is inside of a paragraph tag with a class of title. So if I take a look at this one, class of title, and the text is inside of it. So you kind of have to, when you're scraping, you kind of just have to observe the HTML and kind of look for a pattern for the data that you want. And once you find that pattern, then you're going to just grab that using jQuery-like syntax with Cheerio, and then grab the text out of it. So over here, we're looping over all the paragraph tags with class of title using .each. You could use a for loop too, but with .each, you could use, the benefit of using .each is that every paragraph tag inside of here is already like a jQuery-like object. Over here, we're grabbing the title, and then we're grabbing the href. So the way we're grabbing the href is we're going into the children of that paragraph tag and grabbing the href out of it, right? It's weird that they're doing children here, and it worked because there's only one child. So you could do, I think, EQ0. That would work too. Get the first element out of it. Or maybe it could be .children.eq0. Let me see here. Let's see if this works. And does it work? Yeah, it does work. Right, so it grabbed all the title tags and links from that page right here. So if you want to make like a crawler that grabs all, like let's say you had 10,000 subreddits and you wanted all the title tags and links to those title tags, right? Any link that someone posts on the subreddits, you can just you could do an axios.get call you can like call this file like 10,000 times using a shell script. Over here, we're not saving it to a database. We're just console logging it. We're just console logging it here. So again, right, we're using two packages, Axios and Cheerio. Axios does what, Haven? It's row. And Marisol. Exactly. It's like an AJAX request on the back end. What's Cheerio for? Janox row. Good. Parsing the HTML, right? Because you don't need, guys, you don't need cheerio. What you can do is you can write a regular expression, like a pattern, to find the text inside of it. But you'll probably kill yourself, right? Because that's horrible, right? Because, I don't know, it's going to be like really long and really hard to write. Cheerio is really nice because you could use this, right? And you guys know this is something you know how to do. It's been ingrained in you, right? Using jQuery has been in you. So use that, right? So we can load, as Judika said, we're loading the HTML into Cheerio with this line, why is it like this? If you look at the Cheerio documentation, that's what it looks like. And then we're making an array, looping over all the paragraph tags with a class of title, grabbing the text out of them, grabbing the href out of the links that are inside of each paragraph tag, and then putting the link and title into an object and pushing that object into this array right here, and then console logging the array after the for loop call. How do we know to do a paragraph tag? You have to look at the HTML. You have to look at it. I mean, you have to see, okay, this is the data I want. Let me right click, inspect it, and see what element it's inside, what the class is on that element. Questions on this?
You might not be able to scrape any website if there's not a pattern, or have a pattern.
You will always be able to scrape it, because what you could do, Rob, is you could loop over literally every element. You could, so let's just say if I change this to a star, that loops over every single element on the page. So you will always be able to get to the data, right? The one issue is this will not work on anything not like anything after 2005, like websites that are using technology past 2005. This method might not work well, because after 2005, people started using JavaScript a little bit more, right? A little bit more. I guess maybe 2009, 2008. That's probably when JavaScript really got into power, because a lot of people load their data in after the HTML loads, right? The HTML loads, then they make an AJAX call, get the data, and then put it onto the page. But if that's the case, this won't work. It'll just get the HTML before the data got put on. Right, so you have to use the advanced example in 09. 09 is an actual browser you control, right, in the background. So that was 06. Other questions about this? All right, we're just going to this page, getting the title tags and links for each title tag, putting it into an array, printing it out. Okay. So 07 is similar, except now we're doing it with the database and Express, right? So we're using Express, we're using mongo.js, we're using axios, we're using cheerio, right? And then over here, when you hit /all, it's going to go into scrape data, and what's this called? It starts with a C. Collection. It's going to go into the collection, scrape data, and it's going to return all the documents inside of it. That's what /all does. And then going down over here, when I hit /scrape, it's going to go to Y Combinator, and it's going to grab all the title tags, right? Get all the titles and all the links, and it's going to insert all of them into the scrape data collection right here. So let me show you what this looks like. Okay. All right, so if I go to /all, we see nothing, right? There's no information inside this scrape data collection right now, right? This is the route that I just went to. /all. I went into the database, I went into the collection, I found everything, I returned everything. And everything is just an empty array. Now we're going to go into/ scrape complete, refresh this, And this is all of the posts on Y Combinator's news website right now in our MongoJS database, right? And we have persistence. So if I refresh it, it's still there.
What's the
Now
value
you-
doing this in Mongo versus MySQL?
No. There's the big difference is Mongo's easier, right? So you don't have to set up a schema. You don't have to even make your database. You don't even have to make a collection. You just do it, and it just does
Okay.
it.
I got you.
Whereas MySQL, there's a little bit more setup.
Yep.
Go Qua. I did see. I did because I'm so like I love SQL so much. I just use SQL. Right. But here's the thing though. Like, I was scraping it and I was exporting it to a CSV. Importing a CSV into Postgres is pretty straightforward, right? So it didn't really matter. And I knew exactly what I wanted, you know. And the NFL website is really well maintained. Like they don't do a bad job. ESPN sucks. ESPN, it's crazy. Because I wanted some information from ESPN and NFL, right? So there's no common ID for every player, but not every player has a common ID. You can't use their jersey numbers because they changed their freaking jersey numbers, so you can't use them, right? So I was like, okay, well, I'll use their name. Can't use their name because they spell their names differently on different sites. Or they'll spell their name wrong on different sites. So ESPN spells like players' names wrong. Or they'll use their middle name explicitly, or they'll use their middle name with a J inside, like their first initial. Or sometimes they'll have their last initial, but instead of their full last name. So unless like I wrote some kind of regular expression, it would be a pain. So I couldn't join on names. It was horrible. In that situation, what you could do is come up with like a percentage number, right? Find the most likely person that matches, but it's not perfect. All right, so yeah, sure. Hmm? Where do you see that? Here. Exactly. Mhm. So when we say well, this is just how you don't think of this as jQuery. Think of this as Cheerio, right? This is Cheerio. Cheerio could have written this differently. The reason why they wrote it like this on line 46 is so you feel familiar on line 48, right? It was super smart of that developer to do that, right? If I was ever going to make a package, I wanted people to mass adopt it, then I would try to use something you're really familiar with, like syntax that you're extremely familiar with, and then you'll just use mine over everyone else's.
It must have been English.
Quick question for Vaughn.
Yeah, what's up?
How do we do this into a CSV? I know we're doing it into Mongo right now, but how do we put it into
You'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, in 09, I have a CSV example.
Awesome.
Yeah. So other questions about this file? You guys are all capable of scraping anything right now before 2009, right? And soon past 2009. So two of my students were making this like fantasy football thing, and I was like, perfect, right? Because that's great. And so they wanted to scrape all the information from this page. This is in 08, by the way. So, oh wait, what the hell? How's this possible? There we go. So they wanted all the information from this page, and thankfully it was just HTML, right? This is just HTML. It's not being loaded in via JavaScript. So they're probably using some kind of templating language, like maybe EJS, or in Ruby it's ERB, right? So they're using something to just display all this information right here, right? This is all the passing yards for quarterbacks in 2016. And they're using not URL parameters. What are they using? Just the queue. query parameters. Nice, Aaron, right? Query parameters, because we see the question mark and then the ampersands, right? Separating the different parameters and their values. We get the HTML back. I grab, all the information is inside table rows. So I have to, we go through all the table rows. What does .slice1 do? What am I doing right here? Good, right? I'm skipping the first one. I'm skipping the first one and getting the rest. I'm going from 1 to the end. .slice1 goes, what that does to an array is goes from 1 to the end. I'm skipping the first one, 0. 0 is the first one, right? So I'm skipping the first. Why am I skipping the first one? I mean, the thing is, like, you're not going to know any of this off the top of your head. Like, none of this will be, you will not know any of this. You'll just start writing it. It'll be wrong. And then you'll keep correcting it over time, right? Because over here, the first row is this, right? RK, player, team, position. I don't want that, right? I want this moving downwards. So when I started looping over table rows, I noticed the first row was like that. So I was like, okay, let me skip the first row. And then what I'm doing over here, it looks insane, but you know, this is something you'll just end up doing because, I mean, there's no other choice if you want the information, right? And what I could do is I could just, if you're ever confused, you could just do element, you could do console.log, elements.text, right? Or I think it's $element.text, right? And then you could just see the element, or you could see, you do .html, and you can see the HTML of that element right there. But what I'm doing over here is grabbing the player, team, completions, attempts, yards, touchdowns, and interceptions, putting that into an object, and then I'm inserting that into the QBs collection in this file. So when you run this file, you end up getting this, all the quarterbacks and their yards, touchdowns, and interceptions.
So why would you write all that code instead of just like maybe copy and pasting it into a spreadsheet, saving it in CSV, and then uploading it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Josh hit it right there. So, like, if you did, it's funny because this is what you do, and if you had to do this ever, you copy, you go over here to Google Sheets, which I spelled wrong, but it doesn't matter. We'll find it anyway. Yeah, right. Or you could do another one, right click, paste special, paste values only. There you go. So we have it right there, and then file, download as, or is it CSV? And there we go. It's the same thing, right? So why would we do this instead? Because we're stupid. No, I mean,
Don't repeat yourself.
yeah, I guess, because let's say you wanted 1932 to 2018, right? I could run a shell script, right? Instead of over here, where's it? Where's 2016? Instead of 2016, I could put in something from process.argv, right? I can grab the first thing from process.argv instead of 2016. And then all of a sudden I could call back like a shell script, run this file from 1932 to 2019, right? And then all of a sudden I have all the data from 1932, 2019, and it's all in my database, right? So that's the advantage. What would you say?
Show us that.
Can I show you that?
Like how to build that shell script and everything, because I see the values.
Sure. 2. now over here, I'm going to have a while loop. I'm going to hit the scrape.js file, pass the year in. I'm going to start at 1932. First, I'm just going to make sure that this works in the browser. Where's 1932? Okay, 1932. Oh, these guys. Yeah, they did. Interesting. Yeah, actually, like throwing the ball was like such a new concept. And I forget, it was Notre Dame that threw the ball. Yeah. It was crazy because they were like, how are we going to beat these guys? And they were like, let's throw it over their heads. And there's like this whole documentary on YouTube about it. It was insane. Oh, man, I wish I was older, I guess. Maybe not because of bad things. But, oh, yeah, they brain damage. Yeah. So I don't need the week. So while the year is less than 2019, put the year and then echo year and do year plus 1. So it's going to sleep 5 seconds between each call. Right here. So I'm going to go into my database right here, db.qbs.remove. Did that do anything? It didn't do anything. There we go. So I just deleted all the QB documents because I'm going to rerun this. And then now what I have to do is, what file was I in? Oh, 08. So now I have to, after I make the shell script, I have to do this chmod 755 getData.sh. I have to make this shell script readable, right? So what this does is it gives me permission to run this file. It gives me permission to run this file over here. Normally you have permission to run anything on your computer, but with the shell script, what I found is you have to give it permission to run on your computer. And these are the permissions to read, write, something else. I forget. Sorry. User group and then read, write?
So 7 is for the user. 5
Here, give me 1 sec. Let me just put this in a file. Seven is what?
7 is for the user. 5 is for the group of that user. And 5 is for the
For the address?
others.
Others.
Yeah.
Oh, for how others access this file. Okay, got it. Okay, so there was a chmod tool. Yeah, here we go. So you could use, there's a nicer one. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so the first one's owner, next one's group, next one's public. So the owner of the computer, I guess.
No, owner of the file.
Owner of the file, and then group is what?
Where the group, where the user belongs.
Where that user belongs. Okay. I haven't done much of this. I just like run chmod 755 every time I have to. Yeah. You just run chmod 755 and the script can run. But if you're curious, you could take a look through this and read more about it. Okay, so now I just have to run this file. So to run a shell script, you just do /getData.sh like this. Oh, damn it. Oh, yeah. npm install. All right, so now I run it. And every 5 seconds, it's going to keep, or or not. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. His name was Blood. And he had 0 completions. Probably a lot of running attempts, right? Because I'm just getting completions, but somehow this isn't, is this working? Is this working? Let's see. Yeah, I really thought this would work. Hold on. Let's see. db.qbs.find. It looks like it only ran for 1932. I'm surprised. We'll do 1933. Try it again. Yeah, I'm not too sure, Josh, but this is, I think, is right.
Okay, well, it's all good. I was curious because I can see the value of it if you're doing it for multiple pages, but just for doing it for that one single page, I thought you just want to copy and paste it into a CSV.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. If it's one page, you just copy and paste it. But if it's like 100 pages, then you want to not do that.
I didn't mean to derail you. I wasn't sure if you were going to show us this at a later date or something, but this is something I guess we'll just have to learn on my own.
Yeah, I guess I was going to show you this like today, so I guess I just showed it to you.
Okay.
But it didn't work, so I'll fix it. All right, so in the next example, over here, I'm using something called, instead of Axios, I'm just using something called Nightmare, right? So the only 2 packages I'm using are Nightmare and Cheerio. I'm using the FS library to create a CSV. This is an 09. And with Nightmare, what I do is I make a new Nightmare object, right? I say show true right here. So when you pass in show true to Nightmare, it actually shows the physical browser that is being used. Because what you're doing is you're actually controlling like a headless browser. They call it headless because you don't see the browser, but it is head full because you could change that by doing show true, and then it shows the head, which is the browser. Over here, we're saying go to the URL, which I'm passing in over here. Which I'm doing right over here. And then it gets the HTML and returns it. And in a promise, I get that HTML. And then I load that HTML into Cheerio. And then I just use Cheerio like I do normally. Right here. And then I generate an array of objects. And then I just put them, I turn that array of objects basically into a string. And I just append that right into the CSV. Right here. So steps I took were, instead of Axios, use Nightmare. Right? You're still using Cheerio. I'm using FS only because I want to put this data into a CSV. I kind of hard-coded 2019 in. I passed this in using process to argv in my original example. And over here, I'm scraping essentially, weeks to scrape -1. The first week, the first URL. And over here, this is where I'm actually making the call, right? This is where I'm actually opening up the browser, going to that URL, getting the HTML, loading it into Cheerio, and then parsing all that HTML. This looks pretty complicated, but it was through trial and error. I think it took me a few hours to kind of actually get this down over here. So if I run this file, you'll actually see the browser. And then if I go into the file that it just made is a CSV right here. So if you run this from a shell script, then for me, what I do each year is I just run the same shell script. Wait, I run this shell script. I just change the year to 2019 in this file, and I just run it, and it generates a CSV of the NFL schedule. And I import that into Postgres, and then I can do some, and if I import in some rankings for each team, for the offense, defense, and skill positions, I can figure out like some stats on what I might want to draft on. You can also do some really crazy things with Nightmare, like right here. I'll just make another file. I'll just put it right here. And let me see if I can do show true. Yield Nightmare. Okay, let me see if I can just change this up a little bit. Okay, let's try this. um, I don't know why this would really do it. Oh, thanks. I heard you. I was like, I couldn't stop myself. God damn it. But this would go to the URL, and it would actually type into the input GitHub Nightmare, and it would click the button right here. That's what it's supposed to do, but it didn't. The input? Was it show? Show colon true, new Nightmare. Here, let me try one more time. Damn it. Okay. This is what we're going to work on Tuesday. We're going to work on the homework assignment for Mongo in class, right, for Tuesday. Basically, what you're going to be doing is scraping a website of your choosing, right? Getting the title tags, the links, putting that into a Mongo database, and you're gonna let users comment on each like post. So kind of like Hacker News on Y Combinator. All right, so that's what you're gonna do on Tuesday, and that way you won't. We're gonna make it so there's no more homework assignments, right? But you're gonna have to still do them, but in class. What I want you to do also what I want you to do, because I'm not going to give any homework, is focus on your final project, right? So I want you to come up with your final project. There are no real requirements for your final project, but a lot of people end up using Express and React, right? And they make a mobile app on top of their web application. The people that really push themselves. They make a mobile app and an Express, like a web app with Express. They use Node, React, and Mongo, usually, for their final project. And then they use React Native for the mobile application.
Are you gonna slide for those?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, final project gonna be? I'm sorry, Colin.
What's up? Yeah.
Is the final project gonna be like individual, group?
Anything you like.
Okay. So I have an idea for mine. I mean, I don't know if I would end up working with these guys. In case I do decide to go by myself, so I have an issues autistic, and I kind of want to create a page that facilitates, like, like programs and places to attend, especially for the Latino community, because in the Latino community, people think that it's like, oh no, she's fine. They don't really comprehend.
I'm sorry. What did you say? You're for the Latino community. What do you want to make?
No. So my niece, she's autistic, right?
Yeah.
So in the Latino community, a lot of people think that autism is just like, oh, she's fine. She's just being clumsy, kind of thing. They don't really have access.
God.
I know, it's fucked up.
Oh my God, dude. That's fucked up.
I know, dude. They don't really have any access or facilitations to like programs that actually can.
You know what I think? I don't think it might not be the whole Latino community. Because like my brother's autistic.
Okay.
Right. So and so we in New Jersey.
Yeah.
The New Jersey, they really organize themselves, right? If you have a group of people and they organize themselves really well, and they communicate to the politicians and stuff, they'll force them to like pass bills and stuff. Like it's pretty crazy, but they will listen to you.
Yeah.
But you think they won't listen to you, but in numbers they will listen to you. And then they passed all this legislation, and if you're autistic in New Jersey, you have so many benefits. It's crazy. Like I think my parents get $30,000 a year for babysitting, and he's 29, right? So he's 29. He's still getting $30,000 a year to just like pay for babysitters, which isn't actually a lot of money, right? Because what you can't, it's not a full time. You can't get someone full time for $30,000. But there's a lot. So if they need to go to the grocery store or something, or if they have to go somewhere, they can go. And they can have this, or they can actually take the $30,000 for themselves if they wanted to, right? They can pay themselves $30,000, right?
After this whole thing, we're getting a big beer,
Yeah, absolutely.
like maybe that big.
Yeah.
Right. Just want to let you know.
Yeah. Well, we could use your app and figure out what the best thing is.
How to figure everything out.
What's crazy for work? I'm really nervous, but I shouldn't be. Like I'm supposed to work with United States Postal Service on a project.
Very serious.
Right. So, but I have to get drug tested. Right.
Yeah.
And so I have to go to Virginia to the CIA places or whatever.
Like Langley.
Yeah, and get my fingerprints and whatever. But everyone in my department said it should be fine. Right.
Hey, Pavon.
They were like, you just smoked weed, right? I was like, yeah. And they're like, you should be fine. I'm like,
Hey,
okay.
Pavon.
I'm a little nervous. What's up?
We got juices for that, bro.
Can you send me a link for Nando?
Got you.
Of course, you would know that, bro.
No, but it should be fine because it's it's legal in California.
Yeah.
And I also have a medical marijuana license, so
That's
should
how
be,
you work out.
I should that should be fine then, I guess. But still, it's pretty weird. Pretty weird.
I bet a lot of people aren't getting those
Those
nowadays.
people are very weird. Like even though we live in a bubble here, so even though everyone thinks like,
Oh, I'm not going to go there and smoke.
I'm just
weed.
saying.
Yeah.
In Virginia, they're totally different.
Well, it's understandable because they're it's the,
Yeah,
the
I'm
CIA
from that area, so yeah, it's
or
like
it's the government.
everyone's
So
like really uptight about it.
it's big on following rules, and that's understandable to the government. So I understand.
Like when I worked at this pharma company, like they would just like randomly like call me up.
Can I like slack you the details of the project that I have in mind?
Yeah, so you want to bring awareness to the Latino community for autism.
Kind of like create like a, is there anything that I can use for like, like pretty much like have it set to in English, of course, and then like translate as Google does, like just like translate and then put it all in.
So what you can do is you can have
well, because see, like a lot of the programs.
yeah, here we go. I did this. I translated my site to Spanish, French, and German.
Okay.
So usually
Do
you
you
have
have Slack in that all?
yeah, sure. Usually you have like a file.
Okay.
Right. All the text on your website you
Yeah.
put into a file.
Okay.
So you have variables for every single piece of text on your site.
Okay.
And then you use those. Then that's under like a English
Okay.
name, and then you have a Spanish name. You use those same variables, but you put the Spanish words, Spanish phrases in. And then because you're using those variables, if they're viewing the site and they have the Spanish flag,
Yeah.
it's going to be in Spanish. If they have the English flags, then use all the English variables. So that's basically how it works. And then you could translate into any language at that
Perfect.
point.
That'd be cool if you can send that over, man. Because that's pretty much what I have in mind right now, and that I think I would like to, get it going, get it working, and put it out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Other people can-
really though, if you were trying to do something like that,
Yeah.
right? It's more of a grassroots effort,
Right.
right? Like if you're really trying to organize people,
Yeah.
like you have to get them together,
Right.
right? I would imagine like here, I'll give you an example, right?
Right.
You'd have to get someone they really respect in the Latino community,
Right.
or really is super entertaining.
Yeah.
Like I don't know who that would be, right?
Right.
You would maybe you would know, and you find that person. You would kind of partner with them on this issue. Probably someone that finds that like for example in New Jersey, there's a I think there's the person on the Mets who his son. No, he wasn't on the Mets. He was in a minor league team, right? But his son is autistic,
Yeah.
so he would come out to the events and stuff,
Yeah.
right? And that was kind of cool having like a sports star kind of at the events.
Yeah.
So if you can have someone that they really respect,
I don't really know
maybe-
anyone but at least I can know. So
No, I'm just saying you get that person.
Yeah.
You throw kind of like a get together
Right.
with that person. You invite all those
Word
people,
spreads.
right?
Yeah.
They come there and you bring awareness to them, right? But you have to convince the fuck out of them, right? And then at that time, you don't just stop. What you do is you get them all to submit to certain bills and stuff, right? Like you're like, if we do this, then we'll get the following benefits for, your children,
Yeah.
right? And then, yeah, it's important. It's the same thing in India too.
Yeah.
Same thing in India. Like my parents felt really alone having an autistic kid because, and some people say, oh, I'm autistic, and then meanwhile they have a PhD.
Yeah.
It's like my brother isn't like that. He can't take care of himself. He can't. Like he needs someone to take
I
care
don't
of him.
mind me asking, is he level 1 to it?
I don't know what that is, but
That's like the scale on the spectrum, pretty much like 1 to be like
He can
the
read-
most efficient.
he can recognize letters.
He can take care of himself.
He can
so-
recognize letters, but he can't read. Right? Yeah. He can't make eye contact.
That's
Yeah. So, like everyone in India, my parents, where they're from, they didn't know what the hell that was, right? So, it was like there's like zero support in that regard, So it was really hard. But in New Jersey, they had all these parents and families, right? Even though they weren't Indian, they had that community, and that helped a lot. If you don't have a community to help you, it's really bad.
That I think I'll probably just like bring it over to the school where she goes.
Mhm.
Because they have one person that is like in charge of like spreading the word around. That same example that you just given, like that little community.
Yeah. So
People
what
that-
I was talking about is more not a web app, right? It's more of community engagement,
Right. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but in terms of making a web app, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you're going for, so
Yeah,
send it to me.
Yeah, it's an idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, not set in stone, but
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks, man.
Take care.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna be in class next Saturday.
Hmm?
So